Next, we'll move into the topic of auctions. An auction is a mechanism where a potential buyer can compete with others for a good, a service, or more generally, anything of value. Sellers participating in the auction have an item for sale, and they wish to obtain the highest price. Buyers participating in the auction seek to obtain that at the lowest possible price, at least to them. What's important here are the bidder's risk preferences. We'll see how that would impact the behavior inside these auctions. There are 4 types of auctions we'll be looking at. The first is the English, which is ascending bid. There's the first price sealed bid. There's a second price sealed bid. And then there's a Dutch, which is descending process of bids. And we'll look at each one in turn. There are differences among auction types. First is on the timing of the bidder's decision. If it's all done simultaneously, then that's a closed or sealed bid. If it's done sequentially, then it's something like an outcry English auction. The amount of the winner is required to pay is either the top bid or a bid that's lower than the top bid. And we'll look at the specifics how these work. English auction is where you have an ascending sequential bid, which means someone says, what do you give me for this item? And the bid will then rise from bidders who compete against each other. And the auction ends when the single bidder remains, and therefore that bidder will obtain the item and pays the last amount of the bid that was provided. The bidders continually obtain information about the other people's bids. So you're in the auction room and you see the action taking place, who's jumping in, who's dropping out. So that provides you some information about who you're competing with. And the bidder who values the item will most likely win. And this is the general idea here, is that if each person in that room has a number in their mind that they will pay, then that's the number which should happen. Because if you're bidding and fighting and you have a high number, then eventually you should be the winner because you have the high number in your head. You won't have to pay that because you're not going to bid against yourself, but you will be the winner. The next is a variation of the sealed bid. Sealed bid, you put a paper in an envelope with your number, you seal it, you put it into the auction process. So a first price sealed bid is where we all submit our bids, and then the bids are opened, and the award goes to the one with the highest bidder, and that's the amount you pay. So bidders in this case have no information whatsoever about other people's bids. The bidder who values the item the most will win. So that's how a first price sealed bid auction works. A second price sealed bid auction, similar process of sealed, but instead of the highest bid winning, the second highest bid is the final price, and the one with the highest bid is the winner, but only pays the second highest price. Again, in this case, bidders have no information from the process because they don't see what the others are doing. And the bidders who values the item the highest will also most likely win because he or she bid the most. But the amount they paid isn't their own final bid, it's the bid from the second place bidder. You will note that that is the same outcome as what we saw in the English system, right? In that case, if you wanted to pay maximum of 1,000 and it bids up to 700 and it closes because no one's going to bid above 700, you won the bid. In this type of bid, the bidders obtain no information during the process because they're bidding all with a sealed bid. And the bidder who values the item most will win because they're going to bid the highest number in the envelope. But the mechanism in this case is that bidder pays the second highest price. The next variation is the Dutch auction. This is where we start at a high number and descend until we get to a price that the bidder announces their willingness to pay. So let's say you're willing to pay $1,000 and the bid is $10,000. Well, you'll stay quiet and not raise your hand. But as that moves from 10,000 to 9, 8, 7, etc., and gets toward 1,000, you would bid 1,000 when it hits your highest number. In this case, bidders, again, have no information because there's no bids. We're starting with a high bid and wait until someone says yes. There is no process to get to yes. It just goes from an out of reason number down to somebody's price that they're willing to pay. And the bidder who values the item most will win because they're going to stay quiet, and when it hits their number, they're going to bid, and no one else will bid before them. This should provide that the bidder with the highest price will get the item. There is a strategic equivalence of the Dutch and the first price auctions. The end results will be the same. The winner of the Dutch auction will be the same as the winner of the first price sealed bid. And that's because it's based on the optimal bids by the bidders.